When we speak of the gaming legends of yesteryear, they're often coated with a rose tint that makes them play better in our memories than in modern reality. The few games that meet our jog down memory lane with a sprint receive a title I personally reserve for games boasting an excellent quality standard that translates to any era. That designation being timeless. Metal Gear Solid 3 is an overwhelming achievement in brilliant game design that improves on every facet of its already top-notch predecessors. It weaves a narrative with tight writing, deep characters, thrilling plot twists, and an unforgettable conclusion. It features a killer score with one of the most iconic gaming themes ever made. It shirks the urban setting of series past to toss you into survival mode stranded in a jungle that fits like a glove. And from top to bottom, it features a roster of the highest quality bosses we've seen in the series thus far. If you followed this ranking series, you know that I've been ranking boss difficulty. I was on the fence about this choice in part due to the low overall challenge thus far, but more so the notable complexity and quality of the boss design. There's so much to unpack in each and every battle, and difficulty is merely one facet within. I think you all called it correctly in saying a quality ranking would be more interesting, and I'm ready to deliver. Without further ado, here are the Metal Gear Solid 3 bosses ranked from worst to best. Number 9, The Pain. What a fitting title, because this boss is a nuisance! First of all, hearing bugs buzzing made my skin crawl. I was overjoyed when I saw him challenge me in the early stages of the game because I was desperate to not hear that sound again anytime soon. I could list off the other pains, such as the cyclical nature of diving in and out of the water to take shots, his bee shield, and so on. But I'm not gonna rant for fake rage pretending The Pain is a bad boss. Quite the opposite. While The Pain is clearly my least favorite fight in Snake Eater, I think it's a solid boss overall. The dive in and out of the water to avoid attacks while utilizing the water camo is clever evasion, but admittedly it does make it piss easy. You can even hide behind the rocks for most moves. And on land, you can shoot away the grenades he sends towards you and the bees on him with a few well-placed grenades of your own or shotgun blasts. His only rough attack is in the second phase when he starts spitting bees that sound like race cars, but he rarely does it, and even when he does, you just jump in the water like anything else. There are even fish in the water if you run out of food, which gives you unlimited heals as long as you bob in and out of the water like a patient dolphin. You don't need to though, it's a cake boss. Even so, difficulty isn't everything. I enjoyed the design of using water for evasion and having to square up on the platform to do damage. While winning may be simple, making him slightly less memorable, that doesn't mean the design isn't solid here. I feel that it's an average romp and it is a great relief squashing this horde of bees. Number 8, Colonel Volgin. Volgin barely edged out The Pain. Of all the fights in Snake Eater, this felt by far the most chaotic and not necessarily in a good way. Take out a gun, he shocks you and tells you to put it away. Okay, then run up to him and he blocks all of your punches even when I hit him from behind. I finally figured out that if you could get behind his shield, he can't block your shots, but this requires you to be quick, forcing free aim, which has always felt janky to this point in the series. As the fight goes on, he'll get more attacks such as a bullet and shock AoE, firing a machine gun directly, both of which leave bullets lodged in you that need to be cured. In Metal Gear Solid 3, instead of the rations of games past, your health regenerates slowly depending on stamina that is maintained by food you forage. You can also take a temporary slice to HP that needs certain resources to cure depending on the wound. It's a genius system change that is matched well by Snake receiving added tankiness. Volgin blows through that pretty well though. Without a doubt, I had the hardest time dodging his attacks of any boss, and for me it felt like a lack of understanding of what I should be doing. Which is true. Apparently the way you should do this fight is through close quarters combat throws, which I never learned existed until the very end of my playthrough. Close quarters combat is apparently a lot deeper than I realized. It's a real shame I never learned the nuances of it. It is cool though that there's a lot of different options to take him down, but if throwing him to the ground and shooting him, rinse and repeat, is a clean method of killing him, that's not all that much more exciting. I don't want to play it out like this fight is bad, it's not, it just doesn't feel as polished to me personally as the others to come. I give it the edge over The Pain due to greater story significance, higher levels of creative options in handling the fight, and providing a solid challenge for the endgame. It may not be my favorite, but even at number 8, I would say the quality is tipped slightly above the quality average when looking at bosses in gaming as a whole, and it only gets better from here. Number 7, Ocelot. I thoroughly enjoyed watching the intimidating Revolver Ocelot's reduction to this cocky brat trying to prove his worth and currency of revolver spins rather than actual skill. If you thought the minute-long rotating revolver montage in the intro was gratuitous, just wait until he has to reload for the first time. Ocelot is jerking his revolver and stopping to exclaim how good it feels. I can't believe they stopped the fight for this. I guess it fits right in with the secondary cutscene angles to focus on the finest parts of the narrative. When it comes to difficulty though, his bravado is about all he has to offer. This fight reminds me a lot of Olga Gurlukovich from Sons of Liberty, but with a far inferior opponent. The lines of sight are clear, he leaves himself exposed for longer before shooting, and my aim was finally improving enough to get the drop on him quickly. I hid behind a rock, shot when I could, and ran away. Every now and again you'll get shot by his comrades, but the damage is negligible. That said, the difficulty is perfect for the early game, and thematically fits the difference in skill between you and Ocelot that sets the stage for a budding rivalry, in Ocelot's head anyway. That origin, accompanied by a simple but fun shootout, is enough to land Ocelot at number 7. Number 6, what the fuck? That tongue is as big as your head, dude. What is this exorcist shit? I'm not afraid to admit it. This dude had me shaking in my boots at the start. This was the first boss that made an effort to avoid your line of sight and force you to rely on your senses, or your thermal goggles. Using those, it's a matter of trap shooting until he's dead. The only thing that is actually scary is when he comes down onto land and crawls like some kind of demon spawn and pops you. This makes you have to locate him again, which can be really tough with the similar thermal traces spread around to throw you off. If he had mixed this in more often, it would have made things much different. But because he hopped around in the trees, I was able to stand still, track him, and take a shot when I had it, which was pretty often. I'd say in the end at least he experiences the fear too, but then he fucking explodes into 1,000,000 bolts! For the beginning though, I did like that it starts with you poisoned. It's a great mechanic to have panic set in from the get-go. But I'd already been poisoned by a few snakes and had some bad mushrooms, so it wasn't all that scary. I will say that the fight here is solid in theory, but the thermal goggles trivialize what would otherwise be a haunting experience being hunted from above in an open plain. That said, I still enjoyed the efforts to strike fear in you, the atmosphere that creates, and his speed and damage at least made a game of it. Because if you can't track him or miss too many shots, you will be in for a world of hurt. All that mixed together earns him a spot just outside the top 5. Number 5, the Shagohod. The stakes and hype behind it definitely add a lot to this fight, but it really boils down to can you hit 2 massive targets with an RPG, then slam a rocket up its booty. This was laughably easy because of the ability to tap R2 twice to instantly reload. It made aiming slightly awkward a few times when my fingers got jumbled, but it's leagues better than waiting for the actual reload of the RPG. Despite its simplicity, I had a blast because it was hilarious railing Volgin with rockets, stun locking him into an unending loop of frustration. Having the boss sandwiched between thrilling chase sequences and allowing rockets to be fired from Eva's bike adds an extra layer of badassitude to the mix. Once you do blow its booty, you'll have to do it again on the ground because this dude's got an HP bar my bitch figure builds and souls would envy. It's the same deal, only this time on foot, and you have to hit only one of the sides, then him. This did throw me at first, both because I was now stationary and had to dodge things on my own, but also because I didn't understand why I couldn't just ram RPGs down Volgin's throat. Ah well, it's really easy to bounce between the two and stun lock him. Just watch out for Eva driving like the mad lass she is. Overall, it's a great boss. The main thing working against it is the ease of stun locking it. If there was a bit longer buffer period, maybe you would have to evade some attacks here, but the balance isn't perfect. Even so, it's still an enjoyable conclusion to your trial against Volgin and gets added significance as the climactic moment within your daring escape. Number 4, the Sorrow. I feel like this is either a boss you love or hate, and I definitely fall into the former. The experience here is a stroke of genius. I understand the fight mechanics here consist of walking upstream slowly and juking ghosts with ease, but difficulty isn't everything. Ultimately, it's the full package that defines a boss. Entertainment value, narrative impact, mechanical design, and yes, satisfying challenge. So while it plays a role, it's not an end-all be-all. Walking upriver and being subjected to the ghost of every single soldier you've slain along the way was an unexpected gut punch. Having the amount total the exact amount you killed across your playthrough to this point is nothing short of brilliant. Because while the walk may be easy in terms of in-game difficulty, it's arduous and painful to realize how many lives you've ended to this point and slowly push past their attempts to drain your life force. Because you can't die yet, right? Every single one of these soldiers was fighting for something that they believed in. You clashed due to differing perspectives and you came out on top. And if you have something to fight for, whether it be simply the mission or a sense of something greater on the horizon, you can't let it end here despite their sorrow. To do so would dishonor the sacrifice you forced upon them, so you'll need to dodge the ghosts in between the sorrow shooting you with flashing nightmares to stun you. That's all there is to it. Well, that and when you get to the end, you're trapped and you have your life completely sapped. The first time I thought this was a joke and I hit continue and had to do the whole thing over. And it took quite a while because let's just say my body count was higher than a tenured prostitute. What you're supposed to do is bite the revive pill at the end to head back to the land of the living. I really love this whole concept of a near-death experience and reflecting on everything you've done to this point. It gives you pause to wonder what is Snake fighting for. It's a perfect narrative battle and the mechanics, while very simple, are well executed. And on a different run, it would always be a neat measure of your body count, especially if you were trying to be a pacifist. Apparently you can even drown yourself in revive to skip the whole ordeal. Those kind of clever tricks are a cherry atop a great boss in one of the game's most memorable sequences. Though it doesn't offer you a chance to flex your skills, it satisfies in every other way possible. For me, that was well deserving of a spot in the top 5. Number 3, The Fury. I know this guy is supposed to be the furious one, but he embodied a lot more fear in battle than his supposedly fearful brethren. If anything, he reminds me much more of this lunatic from Batman Arkham Origins.
You need a new hobby.
Having 6 corridors to walk down with a flaming maniac shooting waves of flame down as he flies around stalking towards you builds tension rapidly. I was clenching hard as I walked around each and every turn trying to get the drop on him. I primarily used the sniper from distance when I got a good window, but managed a shotgun blaster too. I found staying at range to be best though. At first it was very easy to get 3 sniper shots to the head, run, and then be fine. But later it felt like he knew where I was, and it made me sweat as the battle heated up. He was actually the first boss I died to, and even my victory was a close call. In the second half he gets a lot more aggressive. His 1 moment of reprieve has him rest for 5 seconds before going apeshit. I don't know how else to describe this rocket-fueled tumble down the hall, but I'd recommend you avoid it if you can't get the shots in time. I had a blast with the Fury. Having a moderate challenge was refreshing, the tension hit all the right notes, and it was a good balance of stealth and run offense, making each shot you land feel impactful. He may not carry the same narrative power as Asaro, but the rush of battle gives him the slight edge at number 3. Number 2, The End. What an outstanding battle. The setting pitting you against an old man who rested up to save the last of his life forced to use his master sniping skills on you is chilling, and oddly tranquil at the same time. An appropriate word because this bugger uses tranquilizing darts on you. As I fumbled awkwardly trying to get my own shots in, I realized my health wasn't decreasing. Instead, it was my stamina that was plummeting. This plays perfectly on the game's design. Knowing that you could hide and heal up with the fight taking place across 3 giant separated areas, with them only being in one of each of them at a time, they force you to use your resources to keep your stamina topped off. You must hunt to survive instead of waiting around for HP to regen, which is far more engaging. I also love that the tranks are removed via the knife, so there's no cost in terms of resources there. There is something devilish about his legend telling of him using animals in the forest to guide him, while you slowly drain his network of spotters to keep yourself standing. To go on the offensive, you'll want to track his footprints. A great tell that alleviates a frantic search for the old bat. Tracking them down doesn't mean you'll get the drop on him though. Oh no, you still need to be quick on the draw. As much as I wanted to snipe him, I often resorted to machine guns because I couldn't outscope him in time. If you get shots in, he'll run away. You might expect a man on his deathbed to be slow, but he's a goddamn sniping Sanic out here. You can at least shoot him while he runs if your aim is quick enough. Get too frisky though, and he'll toss a stun grenade to make a cleaner getaway. The fight ends with him calling to the forest in a verbal and visual tell with a pillar of light. You better hit the man, otherwise he'll be getting healed, which would be painful in this battle of attrition. This duel uses all the tools you have available to you and maximizes it to create a battle that is creative, amusing, and even relaxing. If it sounds too long for you though, you've got extra options. Either take him out earlier in the game after a cutscene, or turn your PS2 clock a week forward. If you do, he'll have passed away. That is unbelievably cheeky and such a clever usage of unorthodox mechanics. No matter how you approach it, it handily takes the number 2 spot. It would normally be more than enough for the number 1 nod, but I think there was no doubt who was gonna claim that spot. And the number 1 best boss in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the boss. Wow. Just wow. If only I could sum this fight up in a single word and leave it at that. If I could, it would be breathtaking. This fight had me on the edge of my seat from start to finish, and every second took my breath away. The entire game builds and builds in a never-ending crescendo to this showdown. You know it's coming, she knows it's coming, but when I finally arrived, I wasn't prepared, both emotionally and skillfully. But she is though. She is ruthless. My first battle with her was an embarrassment where she broke my bones, shanked me, and tore my weapons to pieces, scattering the remains to the wind before teabagging my corpse. I initially expected to handle this fight in a sloppy way like I did Volgin, that is, to run a gun like a fool. Instead, I realized the stealth was a key component to victory, and it transformed the battle into a game of cat and mouse amongst this stunning field. I would hide as best as I could, locate her, and do my best to snag a headshot, then reposition and attempt to hide again. She'll spray you with her Patriot anytime she sees you, but eventually comes bulldozing in for some close quarters combat. At first, it was terrifying. When my first fight with her opened, I ran away in genuine fear. Eventually, I figured out though that if you time it well, you can counter her grab and it gives a nice window to blow her away. The timing is fairly precise though, and if you mash away willy-nilly, you better believe she'll juke and punish your misstep. If she does, it might mean snapping your weapon into pieces, breaking your bones, cutting you deeply, and with certainty, a sizable drop in HP. As the fight carries on toward the 10-minute time time limit, the Snake Eater theme rolls in, adding a rising emotion that rides on a high toward the climactic end. Every scene with the boss pours into those final moments. It's a mother against her last fostered child of war to the death. It's made all the more compelling by her strength of character. I'm always thrilled to see great female representation in games, and in this case, it's not that she's a great female character, she's simply a fantastic character. She doesn't have gender stereotypes hammered in, and she doesn't need them. Her gender identity is badass. Every scene with her judo flipping snake further endeared me to her as the veil on her motivations was slowly pulled back. Her ideological dream of peace is a beautiful one, and the game's conclusion further cements her as a true legend. Duking it out with such an icon is gut-wrenching and exhilarating all at the same time. I haven't felt so enamored with a fight in the series to this point, and it goes beyond as one of my favorite bosses I've fought all year. Pretty good for a game celebrating its 15th anniversary in a few weeks. But of course, that's just my opinion. What are your favorite and least favorite bosses in Snake Eater? Let us know in the comments below. As we speed closer and closer to Death Stranding, we've still got a handful of Metal Gear Solid games with bosses to rank. So stay tuned as the series continues by subscribing to the channel and ringing my bell to receive notifications for when they're uploaded. With that, I want to thank you for watching today, much love to you, and I'll see you in the next video.